Welcome to Conversations from the Heart. My name is Sam Hearn. I'm an integrative wellness and life coach, and I've created a space here where I'm going to sit down with some amazing, incredible people that I've been lucky enough to meet along the way during my short life. We're just ordinary folks sharing some raw, unedited, and honest stories, life lessons, and experiences that have shaped us. We're not chasing perfection, just embracing the imperfect beauty of everyday life. My hope is that these conversations inspire you to see the world a little differently, expand your perspective, or maybe even spark something new within you. And hey, if you feel like you have a story to share, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. But as always, if you do enjoy these conversations, help spread the word, hit the like, subscribe, leave a review, whatever platform you're on. So grab a cup of tea, have a little sit down, and let's dive in heart first. So, like I just said, prior to us starting this conversation, I just wanted to connect again because, we had such a beautiful time together in India. And the reason, as I've just said, for me doing this kind of podcast and creating these little episodes is because I meet so many amazing people like yourself with just so many great things to teach me and teach other people. And, I feel like sometimes it's nice to have these conversations just from one human to another. We don't come from any affluent, beautiful backgrounds, and, we haven't got all this money and this power other than the power that we have in ourselves. So,
yeah, such a good point. That's
yeah,
such a good
so I
point
just
right
wanted
there.
to be able to,
No.
this is less about me. This is more about the people that I meet like yourself. I just want to be able to kind of share your story, your views of the world, your beliefs, and the way you've been able to ultimately navigate things. Like we talked about just previously, you've been on a big journey these last kind of 6 months since we met in India. There's been a huge chapter in your
Yes.
book,
Yes.
and you're coming back to whatever real life is right now. Yeah.
Back to reality. To
So
reality.
how
Yeah.
are things,
That actually.
No, I was going to say,
Go
how are
ahead. Say
things
that one
since
more
you've
time. Go ahead.
got home?
Well, since I left, so India, obviously, we were there for 25 days. 25 days, rigorous days, but also some of the most life-changing days of my life. Can you say life-changing days of my life? Pretty much, because honestly, it took grit, I think, to complete those 25 days. For me, I know it did, but there was also I never really felt like I wanted to give up. You never felt like that. I'm pretty sure that wasn't like an option, but there were some days where I think it was harder than other days. Um, but I think the bigger parts of that were learning, not the physical as much as the emotional parts of letting go of self and realizing some of the things that keep us from our own happiness, which is my ego, and I think that's been a really good part of my journey this summer. For anybody that's just listening, I quit my job in May, and which was actually a fairly lucrative job for myself or for anyone. And I talk about that in my own blog, but it was just like, this is not my life. Like at one point I was just kind of there on the couch and wrote an email to my boss and quit because I thought there's got to be more than this. And I'm not really sure what that is. And so when Alyssa, that you met in India, said, come to India with me, and I'm like, okay, I'd never really wanted to become a yoga teacher before. And I'm not sure that's necessarily what that journey was about. It was about letting go of some of the past and looking towards, I think it gave me some tools to look forward with and decide how I want to design my life. Like, what does your life look like, Ruthie? And I think it's going to look beautiful and caring and sensitive and whatever I do. I think I want to continue with that kind of peace in my own heart.
Yeah, no, of course.
Does that make sense?
And how did you feel going into
Ready?
India? Because it was all a whirlwind, wasn't it? It was about 4 weeks after you quit your job, if not less, that you were like, cool, booking India, I'm going to India.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. Well, I gave quite a large notice. So, because I gave 2 months, almost 10 weeks notice. And so I quit my job. And then, yes, within a week, I had booked myself to India and had never actually done yoga. I mean, I'd gone to yoga classes before, done one here or there, but I was not prepared to go to a 200-hour teaching yoga class. I
Yeah.
could barely touch my toes, right? So it was kind of I think it was good for me to just have booked it like that and then get going on my own classes so I could at least be somewhat prepared when I got there, or if you could be prepared, I tried to be as prepared as possible, but I think that also kept me from being as emotional about leaving my job as I could have been because I had something to focus on. So that was really helpful. And then when we got to India, it was just like, okay. I remember meeting you and meeting everybody else, and here we are, and we knew we were going to be with each other for the next 25 days, but I don't think any of us could have realized how impacted we could have been by each other's lives as well. Like, I think that's one of the beautiful things that I take away from India is here we are, kind of raw because it's hard. I mean, there was struggles in so many different kind of ways, right? From people being sick to you know, learning things that maybe we're never going to use again, and having to learn about ourselves and how we react in those moments was amazing and precious. And I think that we all kept each other going, and we were just the most unique group of people. I think, I was so grateful to have those exact people
Yeah.
around us, all of them.
Yeah,
Does
like
that make
correct
sense?
me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, but when
Yeah.
when we're all coming from such unique backgrounds and our own stories and our own journeys, and people find themselves there for their own particular reason. And I feel like when you're in a group of such
Mm-hmm.
diversity, there's almost each person almost reflects a small element of your own personality, whether it's a positive or a negative. And so like you're looking around the room and that person's loving and that person's really passionate, and then that person's a bit frustrating and that person's a bit irritating. And so there's it's almost like every single person reflects an element of you that you maybe need to work on or you maybe need to look at, and that's part of the challenge,
I couldn't agree more. Yeah. Yes. And I think we talked about that in some of the ways, like, because you could, like, some people who might have got on your nerves for a moment. Not any of you that are watching this. I love you all, but you you're like, wait a minute, I need to dig down deep and find my own grit. I need to they teach us back, they come back at us because you're like, whoa, and you're like, what do I need to learn? What am I learning from this? What am I needing from this? You could take away from everybody, even when even if they irritated you, you can take something away from even people who irritate you. You can learn the best things, I think, sometimes from the people that irritate you about yourself and about who you want to be moving forward. Does that make sense? Yeah. But I think that you taught me a lot of that, though. I mean, if I could be honest, like, you keeping me in check as you did sometimes, like, it's like, who is this kid?
Because I do it from a loving
Like,
place of
who is
sarcasm
this young
sometimes as
man?
well, where it's like I call you straight out, but I do it from love.
Oh, you
Yeah,
went
yeah,
boom, like right at me. Which is, I think, though, I think that you probably could tell, and maybe I'm not sure how your relationship with your mother. You could tell that's what I needed, though. Like, I certainly deal better with direct than I ever would with somebody pussyfooting around it. Like, that's not necessary. Like, let's rip the bandage off. But I appreciate you for that, because a lot of people would never. I would scare them. They wouldn't do that to me. Like, they would feel intimidated to say that, and you did not, and that was such a wonderful thing. I love that.
no, it's
I love
good.
that. Thank you.
I always find travel to be really good. It's good perspective. It gives me personally a lot of perspective. Like I had this conversation with Akansha there, and she said to me, "Why do I always engage in conversations with people? Why do I want to know so much about people when, I'm not going to see them in 6 weeks' time?" And I said, for me, it's perspective. It's
Yeah.
like internal reflection of like, what can they teach me? What is
Yeah.
it about their life that can reflect onto mine to give me more presence or more
I
calmness
think that's
or more
amazing.
understanding?
That is such an amazing gift as a person, though, because I don't think a lot of people are like that. I think a lot of people are more self-absorbed, maybe. And somebody taught me that this last year. I was sharing a class with the people that I worked with at Trident Seafoods, and it was seek first to understand and then be understood. And I think when I find myself wanting someone to understand my perspective before I understand theirs, I think sometimes we come to a roadblock, or something. I'm not really sure if that's, but I think that you have such a gift for that. And I find myself thinking more about that, like asking more questions, or, okay, why is this person like this? Or why are they struggling? Or how can I help them? How can I help you if I don't understand where you're coming from? Right? How can I be the person in your life if I don't really know you? And I think that's a special gift you have for sure, Sam. That is a great gift.
And so reflecting
Yeah.
on, coming from like the high pressure environment that you did, to finding yourself in India where you had no expectations, essentially, you hadn't done you kind of went in a bit
Yeah.
blind, like how did that feel like, having spent your whole life under such, because you told me, such high pressure and such mental strain, and it affected the way you think and the way you behave
Yes.
and the choices you made, and now you were like, I've had enough.
It definitely, and I think even coming back from here, so if I'm moving the tape too much up, coming back to, when I'm not working right now, I think India was so good because I had something to do every day from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m., right? We'd start, was that when we'd start the breathing class, 7 a.m.? And that part was really good for me because that regimented workload kept me focused on that. And I think, and it was such good focus, whether it's breathing or meditating or letting your, everything was health related, really. And I think, when do we get the opportunity? How grateful, I don't know about you, but I'm so grateful for that opportunity to step away from real life and have that opportunity to just immerse ourselves in healthy habits, that it was wonderful. Coming home after all of the different trips, because besides that, I went a couple mission trips and different things I've done this summer, and now putting a business together, or trying to put a business together. I am putting a business together. It's That's when the discipline comes in, and like using the toolboxes in my toolbox are so important if I'm going to achieve my own dreams or my own life I want to live the life I love. I'm going to have to put the work in for myself. And that's a difficult thing to do, if I'm honest. I think that's been the harder part for me, because somebody always tells you what to do at a job, right? But now it's like, oh, but the more energy I put into like trying to figure it out, the more excited I get. Like when I work with, like we talked about earlier, working on a spreadsheet or a travel, questionnaire, and really trying to pinpoint in what makes me special into my own site. It's like, wait a minute, that is work, but it's going to be a part of me, right? So that's exciting to me. I don't know
Yeah.
if that
So
answers the question though. That
we'll touch on
answer.
your business in a second, next half, best half, this blog, this travel
Oh yeah.
creation platform that you're creating. But I just want to find out, like, what
Yes.
you've got, all these great ideas and all this beautiful kind of drive, but like, what gave you the courage to actually just go, you know what, I've had enough of where I'm at. I've had enough, because like, I think a lot of
Um,
people can resonate with reaching a certain stage of their life and being like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this isn't me. And like, to actually have the courage to take action on that. Like,
yeah.
where did that come
I think that really came from starting to become someone
from?
that
Okay.
I didn't like the look of. You know what I mean? I started to really thought, you're losing yourself here. And this job, honestly, this job is taking more from you than you want it to take. I was so angry all the time and so frustrated all the time. And it was starting to reflect in who I was. And finally, honestly, I just had enough. Someone had come at me for something, and I realized at that moment that I was only going to be as good as the thing I did that made them happy. That it wasn't like if I irritated them and didn't do what they wanted me to do this time around, but it wouldn't have mattered what I did for the last 6 months. It was right here and right now. And I thought, I can't do that. I can't be this person to everybody. I can't, because I'm not being the
Mm-hmm.
person that I need to for myself. I'm not working out. I'm not exercising. I'm depressed. It all just kind of hit its own head, or hit, kind of finally came to a head. And I thought, you can't, this is not, you're gonna die. Like, this is not, and whether that's like a spiritual death or a, physical or a mental, like all of that was kind of coming down on me.
Yeah,
Does that make
it's
sense?
all
Like,
interconnected at the end of the day. Like our mind, our body, our spirit, and our emotions, they're all so interconnected that
yes,
the death of one can ultimately lead to the death of others. And 95% of all disease in the world can actually be linked to stress. So if you find yourself in a high stress environment, you're
exactly.
not being true to yourself, and that's when symptoms start to show up. Somatically, you're in trouble.
Definitely I felt like that. Definitely I felt in trouble of losing all of the things that we just talked about, mentally, physically, spiritually. Like, I just felt like I had had enough. And it's not just the one company. I've been doing this for years, kind of taught, you work hard, you work hard, you work hard, and you'll get what you deserve. Like, that's been ingrained into my psyche. That's what I grew up with, with a mother from Scotland, and that was her, that's what defined us, how hard we worked and what a good worker we were. That was how we were defined. And so at some point, I think I've kind of learned, and it was over the years before even coming to this last company, that if you work hard, you'll get what you deserve is not necessarily a true statement. That's not a true statement. If you work hard, you have to figure out what are you working hard for? Who are you working hard for? I think that's kind of at the end of the day, that's what I finally came to, is like, who am I working hard for? I'm not working hard for myself. I'm not making myself rich here. Am I working hard for the people that I care for, that do such a hard job at a company like that, like the processors? And I think that that's where I at first felt my value, and that I really did want to do well for those people to make sure that they were taken care of properly. And that's still important to me. It's very important to me. And I think we'll talk on that later, even with the company stuff. But at some point I realized, like it talks about, if you don't don your own mask first, don your own mask first before you don the masks of others. If we're not living a healthy and balanced life, for our own mental state and our own physical state as well, because physical is, being physically fit, I'm not saying you have to, win some prize or anything, but motion is lotion for the body. And the older you get, at 55, I'm realizing the the longer you let yourself go without that kind of motion, then you'll die. Then you can have a slew of issues. It all eventually leads to that. That sounds terrible to say you'll die, but you will die. You need to move, and you need to take physical care of yourself. You need to take spiritual care of yourself, mental care of yourself. You need to find balance, and I was not finding the balance where I was. And so I made a decision quickly. You're not going to find it there. You have to step away. You have to step off the proverbial cliff. And now is the time to do it, because and that's what resonated in my brain, as, if not now, when? If you don't do it now, when are you going to do it? You're 55 years old. If you're going to make something happen for yourself, now is the time. And I did it. I just got brave enough and did it. I think it was amazing. It was scary and it was amazing. And I did it. I think asking yourselves those questions is really important. Like, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for? Am I balanced? Is my life balanced? Am I healthy? You know, mentally, physically, spiritually? And if the answer is no, then I think, we need to learn. And I hope if anybody can learn this younger than I did, to find that balance, their life would be like, I just think their life could be so much better than allowing themselves to go as long as I did, pushing, putting one step in front of the other. Because I find that sometimes then we're just merely existing. We're not actually living. We're just going. Does that make
Yeah,
sense? We're not present.
everything you just
Yeah.
said was absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful. Like I think we're hopefully moving now more towards a stage of a cultural shift where parents and people in your generation are becoming more conscious as well of these needs to balance all these of our lives, but also
Yeah.
to be aware of them, because we weren't aware of them, we're not aware of them throughout school and throughout the educational system, and then we're straight into work, and we don't, people think of spirituality as woo woo, spirituality could be whatever you want it to be, whatever you
Yeah.
define it as. And once you find that balance within your spiritual body, your emotional body, your physical body, then you become more at peace with who you are and where you're going. But I think, like I just touched on, culturally now we're hopefully bringing it forth for the younger generations, for them to be able to sit with their thoughts, sit with how they feel, sit with how they resonate or connect with their purpose for being here. And if we do that at a younger age, as we kind of
Yeah.
move up through those generations, we have more balance and we have more peace within ourselves to just be like, cool, I'm okay with where I'm at. And I think, like you touched on, and you mentioned it in your blog as well, transformation being like a butterfly. It's not like linear, it's ups and downs, it's lefts and rights. But I think when your drive and your focus is for you, instead of somebody else or another business, you realize you're the one who creates your happiness, you're the one who creates your abundance and your wealth and ultimately your life.
Yes. Yes. I feel that so much. I feel like, I mean, it's a little nerve-wracking for sure, just because, we think about money, we think about, having to make a living, and those are all real things. But, I've resigned myself to, like, even when I do go back to Alaska to work other little jobs that will allow me to continue on this road of making my own path or creating the life that I want to live. I'm not going to go, I'm not going to give up so easily to do that. And all of the growth that I will experience along the way will serve me no matter what happens a year down the road or 5 years down the road. If it's transformative work in your own life,
Yeah,
it's a win-win, right? Like, that's a win-win
yeah,
for
it's
me.
stepping out of the
So
comfort zone. Yeah,
that's
it's
kind of where
stepping out your
I'm at.
comfort
Yeah.
zone and trying all these new things. And I can be guilty of it myself. Like this, like with anybody, we have our strengths and we have our weaknesses,
Oh, yeah.
but sometimes we need to face those weaknesses and just dive headfirst into this software or this program or this technology or whatever it is, and be like, cool, this is really stressing me out. That's probably a good thing, because I need to figure this out.
Yes.
I don't need to
Yeah.
master it, but if I have an idea of what it's telling me and teaching me.
And I think that that's like, I really actually had kind of a, not epiphany, I don't know what you'd call it, but when we were mowing the lawn today next door here in Texas, you mow and then the leaves start falling again automatically because it's fall, right? It's fall. I mean, you're only going to be able to pick up so many leaves. But as I looked around at the progress we had made and how much better the yard looked, I was like, that is like life. Like, we're always, I think that some of us have these like type A personalities. And we've discussed that in India before. Like, but I have to have it right. Like, I have to be, I wanted to do well on that test. And in the end, you're like, are you ever going to teach it again, Ruthie? I'm like, no. Well, then why are you so consumed with it? And to allow ourselves to not be perfect is like such a gift. To realize that, I picked up that little bit patch of leaves like 5 times already. They're going to keep blowing, but you've done your best for today, and that best is good. But I think having, discipline and consistency to continue to try to do our best, and each day is different, right? Each day might not bring as, you know each might not bring the same, not reward, but abundance, I guess would be the word. Or you might not check as many things off your list. Yes, exactly. But when you're working for yourself, it's kind of exciting. I mean, I'm sure that you're feeling some of the
Yeah,
same things. Like, I'm so excited for you to see my business cards and for you to see, and it's for me.
yeah,
It's for me. And in the end, I desire to help others. And, you know, I think as long as we're fueled, especially people, some people fueled by helping others, then that's a win-win, isn't it
yeah.
now?
One,
That's a
one thing,
win-win. The healthier I am, healthier
yeah,
that we can be together, the healthier
yeah.
we can affect other
Yeah, no,
people.
one thing I always
Yes.
say to a lot of my friends and people I meet, and I'm pretty sure I probably said this to you, like, you're 100% might be somebody's 120, 150%. Your 70, let me reframe that, sorry. Your 70% could be somebody's 100%. So I always say
Yeah.
that to my friends and like to encourage people, like, it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be, this polished, shiny little thing. If you go out there, give it your best shot, and you put out a
Right.
70%, that could be somebody's 100%. We can spend too long umming and ahhing and sitting on the fence trying to perfect everything, and then we don't take actual action. And then if we don't take action, things don't come to fruition. Things don't happen.
I'm so worried about what, like, that is getting frustrated. I remember one time in CrossFit, this girl, she
Mm-hmm.
wanted my spot on the wall, and I couldn't ever get that medicine ball up very high. It was difficult to throw wall balls, right? I don't know if you've ever done a wall ball. And so she asked for my spot, or we could share this spot like on the wall ball. And I said, there's not really enough room here for both of us. So, but I was so irritated because she, when I looked at her effort, I thought, you're not even trying. Like, and I was so frustrated. So then I'm over at the wall doing the wall balls on more of a ledge up here. So you have to hit the ledge or the ball is going to come back and hit you in the face. And I was more concerned about being irritated with this girl than I was about my own wall balls, and hit myself in the face. And I went, there it is. There's life, smacking the ego,
I like that.
the Gophers in that
Whack-a-mole.
that one game at the arcade. Whack-a-mole, like whack-a-mole, right back down. Right back down. Because why am I concerned about what your
Mm-hmm.
best is if I can just be concerned about my own best and what I'm putting
Yeah.
into my own life? It's a much better road than, finding frustration in other people. I can find plenty of
Yeah.
frustration in myself. Why am I looking to other people for my frustration? And I think that's one of the definite things that I have learned over this summer through people like yourself, through yoga school, through traveling to Africa and Belize and different things, or, where your ego is. Like, where's your ego? And yeah, I don't want her to surface. I would rather find some confidence and humility and just live, think about living my best life and letting that be a light to others.
Yeah.
I think that's a
It's
better
been
way to
quite
go.
vulnerable in a way to,
Definitely.
seeing all the
Yeah.
parts of you that may not necessarily be, where you want them to be, or, they come from the unconscious, they come from that shelf of ourselves,
Right.
like what lessons have you learned from just like embracing and being vulnerable to those parts of you that may not resonate?
I think definitely coming back and not like the practicing my yoga like I should have been, and how well I was starting to do with balance poses and things like that. Realizing that if you're not keeping up with your practice for whatever that is, that it's gonna, you're not gonna be as good. And so it doesn't come without work. It doesn't come without discipline. It doesn't come without those things. And so I find, like, I don't know that that's a question about vulnerability, though. I mean, if that answers vulnerability, that has a, that has kind of a hard time. Like, okay, Ruthie, what do you expect? Like, you're not gonna be some. This is not going to be perfect for you, and you got to keep getting. You got to keep getting up. You got to keep doing it. You got to keep going. You got to keep moving. You've got to keep going forward. I think learning new things. If I'm honest, like being lazy, like finding myself being lazy is when I allow myself to be lazy. And I've said that 3 or 4 times now, lazy, lazy, lazy. Allow yourself rest, but don't allow yourself to make excuses for yourself. And I think that's a vulnerable part of my life that, has probably always been there, where then I can get down on myself because I'm not doing the things that I want to do. And then I'll dig in deeper and become more lazy.
Yeah, I think what
Does
you're
that make
alluding
sense?
to is what we've talked about as well before. It's compassion. It's, like we have good days and bad days. We are all human. Like we can't be perfect every single day. But if you have that consistency and a bit of discipline, and you can manage those days a lot
Yes.
better of like I do it, like I have my practice, but there's certain mornings I do wake up and I can be a little bit tired, and I go, you know what, I'm going to do a lighter practice this morning than I usually would any other time, because again, that's showing compassion to myself, and that keeps me still motivated, still disciplined to do the practice, but it allows me to come out the other side and not be like, I really wish I hadn't pushed myself through that. I'm more like, cool, I adjusted it to how I was feeling mentally, emotionally, physically, and I can push on through the other side still with that discipline and that consistency there, you know?
I think that's one thing that I've learned over the. So I know we talked I don't know, a few weeks ago when I said I was struggling, and I think finding my way has definitely been, challenging. But then when I listened to that, to you, and I listened to myself say, okay, maybe you don't go the whole way. I've been walking Green Lake, which is one of the lakes it's 3 miles almost on the inside, around the lake. And I thought to myself, even if you just get up right now and walk to the store, like go do something, like do something positive for yourself. And the more that I do become consistent, like, you know, when Sam, my husband Sam, gets up and goes to work, then if I'm up and not just laying in bed still because I can be lazy, and because I don't have to go to a job. Well, your job right now is yourself. And that means up as well, and whether and turn on music or do something positive, not just sit there and watch TV, because TV is also very addictive, I think, and it can be. I'm actually reading a book, and I know this kind of goes off track, called Quitting Emotional Eating Easily. And it just talks a lot about emotional eating and addiction, and whether that's, Netflix or anything like that. What are you doing? Are you bored? Is there something else that you could be doing right now that would keep you from that? And I'm learning a lot about myself as I walk around the lake. I listen to this book and I'm like, wow, really true. I'm just so grateful, Sam, for all the things that working on myself has given me the opportunity to learn, that are actually, trauma caused in your life, whether that is emotional eating or that you've allowed to go on that then keeps yourself down. Like then it's like you're hating yourself. Why? Because you had 2 pieces of cake? Like, is that a
Yeah.
reason to hate yourself? No. But you need to ask yourself, what am I doing to change those behaviors? Or why is that behavior a behavior in the first place? And I really want to grow and learn those things so I can, like, wow, it's so refreshing to know. I don't even know what I'm trying to tell you. I hope it's coming through to you what I'm trying to say, but allowing yourself to be vulnerable. When I've told people that too, like, oh no, I'm reading this book, Emotional Eating, how to fix your emotional eating. And they're like, oh, I just like cake. And I'm just like, okay, you know, maybe you dislike cake, or maybe you're emotionally eating that cake and you should really think about it, But I feel like as I learn more about how these things affect us, I'm excited to share that with the world. Like, I'm excited to share, hey, you might want to listen to this book because it really helped me. And I feel a lot better about myself as a person to understand the whys. I don't know, I feel like I got off track there, but it's just good. It's good stuff. Allowing myself, we were talking about vulnerability, allowing myself to be vulnerable enough to go, hey, that's kind of created a problem for you in your life, whether it's, if we're honest, smoking weed or anything like those things that can trip you up because you're not being the best version of yourself. And taking that moment to go, hey, you know what, that causes me trouble, that you could probably get further in life if you would maybe take a little deep dive into that and work on it for yourself. And to start to own that stuff is
Yeah.
vulnerability. Am I right? Or
Yeah,
do
no.
you feel like that?
Everything you're
That's
saying,
yeah.
yeah, this is why I wanted to have this conversation, because I obviously don't know you prior to India, but like you seem to have such an immense, an immense abundance of self-awareness, like I'm not too sure where your journey kind of took you up to this point, but like you know so much about yourself and the way your mind works and the way it kind of plays with you and manipulates and pulls and
Yes. It does.
yeah,
Like a
but
like a yo-yo or a roller
for you to be able to
coaster.
express
Like,
this and share it and be honest and be raw and like people can resonate with this and people can relate.
I think a lot of people can definitely, I have a lot of friends that can relate to the emotional eating thing because a lot of it's boredom. But also, when I'm reading this book, I'm listening like the same kind of endorphins, like when we exercise or when we do yoga or when we do breathing. We get those same kind of fulfillment from those things. But, from the beginning, oh, eat
Yeah.
your dinner and we'll give you a sweet or eat your, it's conditioned, like we're conditioned. And so we want to be angry with ourselves, but really we just need to rip off the bandage and learn why we're conditioned to that. And then when you start to know the truth, and that, like, it even tells you, like, here, put some
Yeah.
chocolate cake in your mouth and feel how it tastes and feel the texture. And then you put an apple, a nice crisp apple in your mouth, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, this nourishes me, this is good for me. And it doesn't just nourish my body, it nourishes me because I feel better about myself because I didn't just inhale half a cake or whatever the case may be. So I think just I feel very vulnerable right now, just learning and growing and believing in myself. And so each day I feel vulnerable right
But
now, but I just want to keep ripping off the bandages and keep going forward and seeing where it takes me and how to get there. How do I get there?
it's like a
Just like I said,
powerful
how do I get there?
vulnerability, right? Like it kind of feels like you've just got this immense amount of energy just flowing through you that you can be in that place of vulnerability where you can just say, yeah, come at me. Like, I'm giving you everything out. Come at me with whatever you've got. Teach me something, help me grow. And like, there's something to be said in that because it's just like, once you open Pandora's box
Oh,
like that, it's like, life's not the same, you know?
no, it's not the same. And nor do I want to go back. Sam, I don't want to go back to that. And like we talked about just a little bit ago, like, okay, no matter what happens with my business, no matter what, it's going to go. I'm going to make this happen for myself and for others so I can show them it can happen. You know what I mean? I want to be a good, a good example of doing your own thing, or whether that's doing your own thing for a business or you work for another business,
Mhm.
and you work for a corporate job, but how to stay healthy during that corporate job. How can you stay healthy? What are the boundaries that I need to set? And maybe in turn helping companies to let people have those boundaries. Because I think if I could have been this healthy, even in the jobs that I had, I think I could have affected change even more because I would have been a healthy version of myself. So, how do we get there for people all around us? Well, we get there by exposing ourselves and our issues, and then learning and growing from them, right? I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. I'm pretty sure. It's exciting.
Yeah,
Isn't it? It's
that's a perfect
exciting.
segue actually
It's
into obviously,
exciting.
creating your life, the one that you want, the one that you love. You started
Yeah.
your website, your blog, your next half, best half. Like, how are you going to use that platform to encourage people to live their lives? Make the changes that you see benefit.
Right? Well, and I think that starts like it's not ready to go, and I haven't put it on Facebook yet. I was trying to, you know, just be mindful about everything that people have going on right now in our world. And I think I'm going to put it
Yeah,
out there tomorrow, just start putting it out
yeah,
on my Instagram and on my Facebook. And because the blog to me is one of the most important parts of it, is the blog of that I'm trying to write how to
yeah,
get there and what I'm learning along the way. I thought about that yesterday, or not yesterday, a couple of weeks ago, excuse me. I was at, and I think I'd posted a picture of the fish yard, the shipyard down in the history, like our history in the industry and a part of who we are. And I think right now I'm kind of being not ripped, that history's not being ripped from me. That's always going to be a part of who's made me who I am. But as I grow into the person that I'm created to be, it's good to look back. It's good to reflect. And I want that blog to reflect what I'm learning right now, what I've learned from my past, because I think a lot of people can maybe resonate with some of the things that I've talked about, even in just the two blogs. So I think that's going to be a big part of it. And I'm anxious, not anxious, I'm hopeful that it helps some people. I'm not really anxious to write more. I'm excited to write more about I even had some things in mind about, mowing the lawn. But as I work on that blog, I'm working on the other portions of what I'd like to, do to make money as far as the travel industry, which is a huge thing. curating trips or even doing some corporate travel for people because I've been a travel agent my whole entire life. And then the one that I actually am extremely hopeful for is maybe being able to work with other companies and have them be mindful of how their employees are feeling, how their employees are feeling being treated by their bosses. Like, how can we build a better relationship in whether it's corporate world, whether it's small businesses? I don't really have like an opinion about who I'm going to be working with. I'm just open to what's gonna come my way or what I can do to help others because I think the workplace is such an extremely important
Mhm.
part of our lives. Like, I mean, we work 40 hours a week, right? I mean, some people work more, some people work 80 hours a week. What does that look like, and how can we make it a more beneficial place to be? You know what I mean? As far as like for all of us, for work life balance, for our emotional state, like communicating with each other. So I'm excited, but I don't know how I'm going to get there just yet. But I'm
Yeah.
working on it. Does that make sense? Like, I think it's unfolding as I unfold. Is in the one blog we talked about the butterfly transforming. It's transforming as I'm transforming. I see more need for it the more I work on my own business and the more I continue to help my friends around me be the best versions of themselves they can be, at work. And I think that there's definitely a need for that. And as far as yoga goes, I've been practicing my yoga. I'm excited to go to Alaska and teach. I'm excited to show all walks of life that we can be healthy and we can be more mindful. My son, not my son, my husband, sorry, Sam, laughs at me because like he'll do something and I'm like, it's because you weren't being
Yeah.
present. You know what I mean? And uh, it's kind of become a joke, but when we are more present today, when I was mowing the lawn, I was more present. When we're at work, if we're more present, I feel like we can get more joy from that when we're present, when we're in the moment, when we're not worried about what's next or what am I going to make for dinner. Or I think even the tedious tasks become not so tedious when we're actually in them and we're doing
Mhm.
them and we're mindful of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited for all the things. I just am. I'm excited for the blog to continue to take shape, and I'm excited for the actual company part of it, or the actual, I don't know what you'd call them, the actual what I'll be doing to make money and for that to come alive. Like, it's starting to come alive. So it's a kind of a fun thing to see. I'm super grateful for my friend who helped me develop the page, and I have ideas of even just making it better, and how as you work on it, just like as you work on yourselves, you see the reward and you see it get better, and then you start to think of more ideas of how, wait, this would be even better. What if I
Yeah.
did this? Or
It's important,
it's
like you said,
growth,
to be
right?
in the
It's growth.
present moment and to enjoy the journey because society as a whole is so fixated on getting to a certain point in time and place, whether it's a certain life goal or a certain age bracket or a certain, particular ambition. But the only moment that exists is the present moment. If we focus too much on trying to get to where we
Right here.
want to get to, we miss everything in between, and you miss they're the beautiful moments, like they are. There's no doubt about
The beautiful moments are definitely, life is in the beautiful moments. That's when the most precious moments are, is I think getting there. But we miss them because we're paying attention to something else, or we're, worried, as long as I can make enough money to not have to worry,
yeah,
about bills and things
yeah,
like that, I'm going to keep on this journey. And that doesn't, and what do I need versus, I'm definitely realizing through this, bugs are starting to come out, through the summer, that my needs are definitely changing.
yeah.
Like, what I need is definitely changing. It's definitely changing. So that's also wonderful. I think that's a wonderful thing. I don't need that cake. Sometimes I still
All
need
right.
that cake. I'm getting
So
better
I
all the
guess just
time.
wrapping this
Right.
up, I think a
So
good place to finish would be, you obviously believe in the process, you trust in the process, you know where you want to go, you're
yeah,
happy to just roll with it, much like
yeah.
myself. What will be will be. How do you encourage people to just trust in that? Because a lot of people can't trust. They can't go, cool. I believe the universe has my back, and what will be, and I'm where I'm meant to be, where I'm meant to be. But how do you encourage people to do that?
I think that, I really feel that faith whatever your faith in, whatever you believe in, if you believe in a higher power, you believe in, the power of yourself, or definitely the good energy that you bounce off into the world comes back to you. I believe that with all my heart. I have to keep believing that because I think that's called hope, right? That we can make a difference. And I think that, if I can do it, if you can do it, Sam, anybody can, people can do this. People can be better versions of themselves, whether that's, I'm not telling you you need to quit your job, and I'm not telling anybody that. I'm just saying get off the roller coaster or get off the hamster wheel before the hamster wheel kicks you
Yeah,
off, before it
because it
throws
will.
you off. Learn to breathe. Yeah, it will. It wanted to stomp me out. And, I realize that's not where my life is. That's not the life I want to live. I want to be happy and I want to spread joy. And you may be able to do that corporate job and still spread joy, but that's because you're being
Mhm.
present and you're
Yeah.
taking care of yourself as well. You can't sustain it otherwise. You really have to be mindful of yourself and set those boundaries. And there's nothing wrong with that. And if you ever need encouraging, I say call me or call you,
Yeah.
and we'll encourage those people to do so. Because you know what? Life is scary, but it's not so
No.
scary. It's not so scary. You have to be brave. I think you have to be brave, and you have to don't believe the lies that those negative trains of thought, whether they're trauma from past family or
Mhm.
trauma from childhood, where, or our ego saying we have to be the best, we have to do the best, we have to, you're not giving enough, you're not giving enough. Don't believe that. That's just not true. That's not true. Put full effort in, wake up and go about your day and do good things, just don't be afraid. If you can't jump off the cliff, the proverbial cliff, like I did, and you need to keep your job, then keep your job. But every time I find a way to implement the positive things that I've learned, I never regret it. I never regret doing the little things I know I need to do, even if it's just a little thing. Even if it's just a little thing. Yeah. Don't make excuses for yourself. Quit making excuses. Well, I think that's a big one too, is, what life do you want to live? Don't make excuses for it. Because it does take
Yeah.
discipline. Sam, you and I both know that. It's discipline is a big part of life, but it's also a big part of getting up and going to work at 7 a.m. That's discipline. People have enough
Yeah.
discipline to go do it for somebody else. What are
Exactly.
you willing to do for yourself?
I think that is the perfect place to end it. I think that line there was just
Okay.
beautiful. If you have the discipline and the drive to go work for somebody else, like what are you doing for yourself? And often it's very heavily weighted towards the latter. So thank you so much for this conversation. I'll definitely be linking all of your blogs and your websites and your socials so everybody can check you out. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
definitely a lot for people to
Thank you.
to ponder and resonate there for sure.
I hope so. I hope I did good for you. I
Thanks.
love you
Yeah.
so much. I do. I'm so excited. I'm excited, Sam. I'm excited. So I'm excited. I'm excited to have you on this journey with me too, my friend. I really am. So, whoops,
Excited
my
to be
water
here
bottle.
too.